Welcome everyone. It is EDU Endpoint office hours time. Today's April 23rd, 2024. So excited you're all with us. Today's agenda is lots of announcements that we'll talk about, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So with that, I'm actually gonna, let's see if I can navigate forward here. Can you all see that?
We see it.
Awesome. Richard, do you wanna kick us off? You wanna share the good news?
I'll share the good news. You can share the bad news. I'll share
Okay,
the good.
all right, deal.
So I'll get the first one and then I'll get the one on the bottom. So the first one for Intune remote help. So as most of you guys know, you should know that customers that are running Microsoft 365 A3 and A5 and Microsoft 365 A1 for devices, I think also gets it. Remote help's free for all of you. It's included in your subscriptions. But we have just added, as of yesterday, we made the announcement that remote help is now coming full control capability for Mac. So this is something that people have been requesting, that we have this functionality. We've had view only for a little while. I think latter half of last year we had introduced remote help view only controls, but now full control support is there for remote help on Mac. So, and yes, madness. It is total madness.
It's a good thing. It's exciting. I know everyone's still pretty anxious about giving unattended access for Windows devices, but to be able to get full control from macOS is a huge win. So if you haven't started exploring or deploying remote help yet, again, that's free for education. You can take advantage of that today. You do have to enable it in your tenant. We've talked about that in a few sessions in the past, so feel free to go look those up if you missed those sessions, but give it a try. I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah,
I know Richard is too.
Everyone's been asking for that for a while. That and the unattended support, like you mentioned. I think once unattended support for Windows comes out, I think we'll all fall out of our chairs because that's been asked for. Because everyone wants to be able to replace remote tools for config manager. They'd be like,
remote control.
You guys have been giving me that, but anywho,
it's still so good. The other day I did it and I was like, wow, I missed this. This is great. It's just pure goodness.
And then we also introduced or announced actually this morning, or well, I guess it depends on what time zone you're in, but it was late last night, early this morning, that 2403 for Configuration Manager Current Branch is now available. Now, I didn't have a chance to look at the release notes. I don't know if you did, Garrett.
I did.
So is there anything you want to comment on it?
There's a couple of things to call out specifically. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But the number one thing that I wanted to make sure that you all are aware of is that there is some kind of a deprecation support. So like we will no longer support, Server 2012 and 2012 R2 as base releases to run Config Manager on. The resource access co-management slider needs to be moved 100% to Intune now. There are a few things like that to pay attention to specifically. Also, if you have not updated your CMG, if you're running a CMG Cloud Management Gateway to the latest, I'm missing the acronym right now, but VSS, I believe, is the right term or the right acronym for it. If you're still running Gen 1, essentially, of those CMGs, you'll be blocked for this update. And so they've done a lot of cleanup around it as far as the support. So pay attention to those things. But yeah, some interesting ones like being able to deploy ARM devices with OSD with task sequences. That support is there now, as well as a few other little nuggets. I think they have like a global search bar now across the entire config manager console. So that search bar at the top, you can search the entire console now. It's like a universal search built within. So some cool nuggets within there, definitely worth checking out, but pay attention to some of those kind of prerequisites and some of the more infrastructure side changes.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I'm looking at here is we've now finally completely deprecated HTTP only communication.
That was it. That was the other one. Yep.
Yeah, so
yep.
Most of you should have, if you haven't already, at least moved over to enhanced HTTP. But if you are going to be running this release and you haven't done that yet, well, you won't be able to because it's going to be HTTP only communication completely gone.
Yep.
But yeah, so some good stuff here. ARM64 support.
Yeah.
We're finally getting that for task sequence support, so you can deploy
Yeah.
ARM64 based images. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff.
All right. And then what do we got here? Commercial preview of Office LTSC 2024 is now available. I can tell you, I've never installed Office LTSC. I don't have any plans to install Office LTSC. I don't recommend anyone else install Office LTSC.
No, I definitely don't recommend this either, right? I think it's important to understand that with the new servicing channels for Office, we want you to be on, kind of that latest release there. So, so really what I'm recommending to most customers is monthly enterprise channel. So this is really, I'm really looking at folks here who are joining in from like academic medical centers or maybe very special research labs where you may need to offer the latest version of Office that updates less frequently. But even then, I think you can make a case that Office has been pretty stable, and just the value of being on either current channel or monthly enterprise channel is there. I think it's much more valuable to be on those channels than on LTSC, but we do recognize that there are edge cases where this may make sense. So just in the spirit of keeping you all informed, this preview is now available. So if this is up your alley, if you need this for any particular reasons, if it's blocked you in some way, shape, or form, then definitely let us know how that rollout goes. But that should be available for you.
Yeah, LTSC, just for those that aren't aware, we have both Windows LTSC. It used to be LTSB, but now it's LTSC. So long-term servicing channel, both in Windows and Office. And so this is a perpetual release of Office. So effectively, what we do is we basically take the build it's like a point-in-time capture of all the features that were released at that time of Office, and we'll basically package it up as a perpetual release, and then that release will just be locked with those features. So like Garrett was mentioning, for customers that are, in areas where they can't use the Office Pro Plus or the Microsoft 365 apps, current channel or monthly active channel, I'm sorry, or monthly channel, this is that offering for you. But so we don't expect too many customers to be using these except for specific, there'll be pockets of customers that will need it, but vast majority shouldn't.
Yeah, and if you're looking at different license modes, so if you've got the current build of Office, like, and I see some chatter in the chat about shared device mode or device-based license, right? Understand that there's two different types of shared licensing. So you've got one that's device-based licensing. Maybe we should redo another session on this, but you've got device-based licensing, which is where you're actually assigning a direct license to that device, which will activate Office specifically with those features. But you also have shared computer activation, and shared computer activation is a mode that you could deploy as well. That's kind of similar, but it's still going to rely on the user account to first authenticate, and then it's going to get a token, and that token will regenerate every 30 days. And that's really great for like VDI solutions, specifically for non-persistent VDI solutions. That's our recommended approach for those Office instances. But know that there's two different kinds. So I see there's a comment in there about device-based licensing and how it requires an Azure AD join device. That's true, but you could still do shared computer activation without having that requirement for Azure AD join if you don't need. Although most of you should be at a place where you're Azure AD joining natively or at least doing hybrid join. That's a pretty easy lift to be able to take advantage of device-based licensing. But we've started running into some other kind of ancillary cases where, like Copilot for M365, if your organization is investing in Copilot for M365, device-based licensing actually won't work. Shared computer activation or user activation is the best way to do that. And then, of course, you can assume here too that like Office LTSC is not going to be supported for Copilot for M365. So know that there's there's experiences or features within Office that you're going to miss out on, based on just kind of what your risk assessment is in your organization. But again, if you look at shared computer activation, or device-based licensing for those shared devices, like those computer labs and things like that, that's what you should be deploying. And again, I recommend the monthly enterprise channel at least. In some cases, even for your staff and faculty, current channel is a great experience now. So again, I really kind of state that LTSC is really meant for those edge cases, like medical research, things like that you can't be disrupted at all. But computer labs and things like that, we've got lots of solutions there now that don't require you to have LTSC.
All right, I think we beat up LTSC pretty good. This is the last time until like 2029 or whenever the next LTSC release is. This is the last time we're here to talk about that.
Let's hear some good news now, Richard.
No, this is the best news, I think. So adding universal print value for educational organizations. So now you guys can click on all these links. So if you click into that link there, it's going to take you to a blog post that we released last week. And we are announcing that we have increased the number of print jobs for customers that are running A3 or A5 starting on May 1st. You will now receive 100 print jobs per license per month. This is up from 5. This is up from 5. So I know a lot of you guys have hit my inbox, you've hit Garrett's inbox, you've hit all sorts of the rest of my team's inboxes on when are we going to get an increase in the number of print jobs, and it's finally here. So May 1st, we will be doing that.
And remember, this is pooled jobs.
And it is pooled, but it's pooled for faculty and staff, like the actual users that you are paying for a license. It's not for student use benefits. So now the pooled jobs students could print with those because these are all pooled amongst the organization, but we're not adding the student use licenses. We're not going to add those and say all of those licenses get 100 jobs. Right. Otherwise you guys would have like 1 million plus jobs. So it's only for the licensed user. So if you've got 1,000 licensed users, you've got 100 jobs for each of them. So that is now available. And we've also in that post as well, we're also making some announcements around things like printing from Mac OS, which is in public preview right now, and then pull print, which is something that a lot of you guys have been asking about. That is coming soon. I'm hoping that last I heard it was supposed to be April. It looks like we might be shifting to May, but that's in private preview right now. Customers are using it that are in the private preview programs, and so we should be seeing a release of that shortly. So that's the big news.
That's the big news. Like it really is big. I've even had customers where they've said, Garrett, we want to go cloud native, but printing is an issue. We really need access to those print servers, and we don't want to go through a bunch of scripts and things like that to deploy printers. And so we're going to look at universal print, and then they look at the jobs per month allocation, and it's like, this is a non-starter, right? And so this actually, I think, will remove a lot of blockers for customers getting to full cloud native, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's included. If you have A3 or A5, it's included. So
yeah,
try it out. I mean, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Keep using whatever you're using today. But if it does, then you can save some cost there if you're paying for another third-party solution. So
yep. Check it out. I'm curious though, would it be worth having the universal print team come on and kind of re-talk about universal print?
Maybe it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because when I read this post, I was like, you know what, I should get Robert Cunningham to just come on here. That made the post. I was like,
yeah.
Just go.
We've also got Bala. Yeah, we've got a few contacts in the universal print team. So and that may be a worthy conversation. We can have them come on and present with some of this news and demonstrate how pull printing works, maybe, or some of that. So
yeah,
awesome. Okay, duly noted. Thanks, team.
And what else we got, Garrett?
Let's go to the next one.
All right, you can talk about all this stuff. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I mean, this one is minor. updates really for you all, but know that if you're an HP shop, there's an HP Anywhere application that's been actually extended for Windows 365 Cloud PCs. So if you're using this, I'd be curious on your feedback there specifically. I know education doesn't have a ton of Windows 365 usage, but I'm starting to see some traction amongst you all in deploying this and getting some feelers out. So just a call out there that HP Anywhere has extended that support, which is kind of cool. And then a couple of updates that I think are interesting for education customers related to Surface devices. So we announced a couple of weeks back that we had the new Surface Laptop 6 and the new Surface Pro 10. And each of those respectively have for business attached to them because they're not consumer devices right now. It's just for business and education customers. But we also, in those announcements, made some updates to the Surface management portal. And so if you're managing Surface devices within your organization, you're probably familiar with that Surface management portal where you can get warranty information and just general device inventory information specific to Surface devices there within your environment. But what's neat is that we've actually extended some of that capability to Graph API. So if you're scripting anything or you want to be able to query the graph specifically around the Surface management tools, we've exposed some of that through an API. So definitely something interesting to look at if you like to tinker with the graph. And then also just a kind of a plug, I think, again, specific to education, we've done a lot from a sustainability perspective with Surface and designing our products. But what that also means is the repairing of our products. So how do we get more life out of our products? And so Surface in the past has been notorious for not being self-repairable, but the team has done an amazing job in making these new Surface devices much more easier to be repaired in-house with you all. And so it's a blog that just kind of details some of that information about how we're taking further steps to simplify that device repair and be able to do it in-house. So I know that'll be very welcome for a lot of EDU customers instead of trying to send a device back or outsource that repair or anything like that. And then finally, Copilot for Security. I know we haven't had a ton of conversations on this, but it is kind of the latest buzz amongst Microsoft in the security community. And we had Rod Trent present a little introduction to Copilot for Security on MS National Office Hours last Thursday. I'll throw that recording in the chat for you all to take a look at. But Copilot for Security, if you haven't heard, is just our generative AI product specifically for security. So it's going to integrate into the Defender stack, Purview, Sentinel, Entra, and Intune, of course. And so if you're familiar with the Security Ninja trainings available on Microsoft Learn, in our tech community blogs, they did just publish how to become a Microsoft Copilot for Security Ninja, which is level 400 training. So for those of you who are maybe in that private preview right now for Copilot for Security, if you're looking into this, if you're intrigued by this, I definitely wanted to share this training with you all to kind of upskill you, because I've been pretty fascinated with what Copilot for Security brings, and I think it'll be a game changer for security professionals across organizations. I know that sounds a little bit like marketing speak, but it really is pretty exciting to see the capabilities here, and I think it's beneficial to you all to kind of start looking at this and scaling it up, not just from a holistic point of view, but also just the capabilities inside of Intune, right? Those Intune specific skills is what we're calling them, on how we can, get some policy information and query the device and get some recommendations within the environment to improve the security posture of your entire environment, leveraging Intune. So really exciting stuff, and I just wanted to throw that link in there so you can start kind of skilling up so that you are the master when you get Copilot for Security.
The master.
Yeah, Master Ninja, right? Isn't that I haven't.
Level
Seems like you have to be a
400.
master. Yeah, level 400. Like that's pretty deep. So all of that is free. So take advantage of it and start leveraging it. But yeah, that's what I've got to share with you all today. So we'll kind of leave it up to Q&A or anything else you want to talk about, Richard.
Oh, don't leave it to me.
We won't ever leave.
Yeah, just let me talk the whole time. What we
So
got
with
here?
that, if you have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat, raise your hand, come off mute, or use the Q&A, whatever method floats your boat. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Isaac's like, well, I've been pronouncing Entra incorrectly the whole time. Entra, Entra,
Tomato, tomato.
tomato, Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Is it Azure or Azure?
Yeah.
Is it in tune or is it
Or in tune.
in tune? The capital T.
Yeah, I hate it. Just like Copilot or Copilot.
Yeah, with a capital P. God, when I see Intune Copilot with a capital T and the capital P and the dash, the dash is in there too.
I did have a question about the Copilot that's available. I can't remember the exact flavor of Copilot for the A3 and A5 licenses, where found documentation about it where it said that the license is actually only applicable to faculty and educational students. Is that so? We should be, any user that has that license assigned, that feature should only be enabled if they're a faculty or student.
Yeah, so that's yeah, it's an
ahead.
interesting situation because when we made the initial announcement for, and this is for Copilot for the web, this is not M365 Copilot, but with Copilot for the web, or Microsoft Copilot as we call it, there's a license that has to be assigned to the user in order for what we call commercial data protection to.
Yeah, that's the one I'm speaking of specifically.
Yeah. So in order to be in that commercial data protection state, the license has to be assigned to the user. And then when the user goes to copilot.microsoft.com, they will have the experience where it says that their data is protected and it's not being used to train the LLMs and all that kind of stuff. When we made that announcement, we announced that it was only available for faculty and staff or students that are older than 18. We have since made a new announcement that we are going to be extending this to students that are younger than 18, but that's not here yet. So as Garrett's kind of going through this just to show everyone, we'll see him pull up here that you'll have this commercial data protection for Microsoft Copilot. And notice that it says that it's A5 for students. So this can be assigned to a student, but the intent here is for students that are older than 18. Now, could you assign this to someone that's younger than 18? Yeah. There's nothing that's going to stop you from doing that. But what Garrett's probably going to show you next is the age restrictions. And so what we've added to Entra ID for the user properties is there's some new properties there for age restrictions. And this was I don't want to say it was stealthily added, but it was added, and I don't think a lot of customers really knew what it was. There was one blog post that came out that we had kind of explained what this does, but if it's under properties.
Yep.
Yeah, and then on the right-hand side, parental controls.
So parental controls right here.
Yeah. And so this is where you can go and identify what age group and consent provided for minor that your students would fall under. So if you're a K-12, then you're probably going to have a lot of students that are, minors or not adults. A lot of the questions we get is, well, what the heck's a not adult? Because if you're either an adult or a minor, well, what's a not adult? And so the way that we kind of look at this is that if you're about 13 or older, here in the US at least, about 13 or older, but you're not 18, you're kind of not an adult. And then minors would be,
under 13.
Right. So, and then under the consent provided for minor, if you want to just show what that is.
Yep.
This will then show whether or not you are allowed or denied access to Microsoft applications that actually leverage these settings. And so one thing we're finding that's really interesting is that if you deny, so click on denied, and then go to age group and set that to minor. So if you were to do something like this, Are you gonna go and try to sign into something?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, try it, because I want to show them what
Right,
crazy
wait a second.
ensues. If you can just go to like
Okay.
office.com.
Yeah, I gotta get her creds though. Where's her email? Oh, I'm gonna have to reset it. Hang
Uh-oh.
on.
I put you on the spot.
You did. This is why you don't do this immediately. For where am I going?
You gotta change your password.
Yeah, there it is. Gosh.
But I think it's just gonna give you a
Oh, I don't want to do it there. Don't look.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Hang on. Oh, boo.
I'm gonna get MFA'd.
Yeah. You put me on the spot.
This is a tough one.
Do you have one in your demo account? You have one that you
wait,
done
no,
before,
this
right?
actually I think this might be what you actually get when you
you're right.
when you assign them as a minor. So
Yeah.
flip her back to just none. Because it's actually important that you guys see what happens here. Because it's a pretty terrible experience. And if you go through and you actually do what you might think you need to do, you actually might put yourself in a bad spot.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second.
Okay.
This is the interesting thing that he was trying to refer to.
Yeah, we've been so one of the challenges that a lot of customers are running into right now is like, how do we block Copilot? And I think a couple of meetings ago I asked you guys like how you guys are doing it, and it was all over the map. Like some of you guys are using content filters, and a variety of different ways of handling this. But one of the things that we're looking at, or we have implemented it, is the ability to leverage these age group restrictions and the granting and denial of consent. And so right now, Copilot, this all came out when Copilot came out, but it also affects other Microsoft 365 apps like Azure Active Directory and Intune and Office, and like basically anything that requires authentication will tie into these things. And so as Garrett's going through and trying to reset this account, what you would find is that if you were actually set up as a minor and you have been denied access, then you can't even sign into any web property that's related to Microsoft 365. You'll just get an error message. But it also impacts your Windows devices as well, as you try to use something like OneDrive on your machine. OneDrive will actually stop syncing because you have been denied access to SharePoint effectively, even though you didn't explicitly deny it. You set denial in for the user, from a consent standpoint, if they were a minor, but that is actually denying them to all of these other properties. So it's important to know that those settings are there. But if you start to deny people, you're actually really denying them from a lot of things. You're not just denying them from Copilot, you're denying them from all sorts of other things as well. How's it going,
it's all locked up. So
really quick before we get on to something else. So is the language on that website out of date? Are staff covered under this license?
Staff have always been covered.
They have been. Okay.
Yeah. So that license it's faculty, staff, and students over 18.
Right. Okay.
Under 18, while we don't support right now, they're not supposed to be covered. However, what we ended up doing sometime February, I think it was February, we assigned those licenses to all users. So even your users under 18, you'll probably see that they have a Copilot, a commercial data protection for Microsoft Copilot license. You'll probably see that they've been assigned a license. And so, you know, if you are seeing that, that's expected behavior. But right now, the intent is that students under 18 should not actually be using it. And that's where the age restrictions come in. Like, we recommend that you go in there and you set the age restrictions up to, you know, like if your student is a minor or if they're not an adult, you can set that appropriately. But then if you go and grant and block consent, you're actually going to block the students from a lot of other things. So don't deny consent, but just set the age group appropriately for what the student's age is, and that should block them from using Copilot. It is not a clear and easy thing to do.
No, and I think we're working on the documentation because obviously we've made the announcement that Copilot for M365, which is the paid version of Copilot, that one is coming for students eventually, right? We've made that announcement already. So we've got to get it working across the board, not just for standard Copilot or Copilot for the web, but for other services that this may impact. And, you know, I think it's just a matter of time to see like what other AI integrations we see across the Microsoft Education stack, right? And I'm looking at things like learning accelerators, right? Reading progress and things like that. Like, where does that come into play? So just having the forethought to go ahead and set at least the age group is a really good idea.
Well, then we'll also get what you didn't show was the school search.
Yeah.
That's also important.
Yep.
Let me share that just to
kind of. If you've got one, because mine's all.
You're all jacked up.
Yep.
Let me share this over here in 1 sec. So get out of your Copilot. Okay.
The demo gods are definitely not with me today.
And they don't like you.
They really don't.
Okay, so in admin.microsoft.com, there's this Microsoft search in Bing for work or school. When you click into this, it asks you how you want to handle the search experience for your organization. Do you want to do school search or work search? So for the vast majority of you, it should be school search. And then are we going to do higher education? Or are we going to do primary, secondary, K-12? So for those of you that are in either of these, you would select the appropriate one for your organization. But if we do this for primary, secondary, K-12, and then we're all being put on the spot here today, Garrett.
Yep. But you're at least signed in, right? With a student account? Nope.
No, I'm not signed in with an admin account. I'm going to try to sign in with a student account here. Actually, I don't think I have an account here. We'll see. We'll see if help desk works.
This is what we get for being in our demo environment all the time, checking with
stuff. Yeah, it's just it wasn't a session that we were prepared to give right now. But
no.
Here, let me go to intra. No, not that one. We'll go here. That's an on-prem synced account. Let's do Alice. Okay. Alice
is the chosen one.
She is the chosen one. Okay, parental control. So none and none. And this is what most people are going to be set to is none. I'm not gonna change any of this.
Yeah, this is default. None and none is default.
Yeah,
so if you haven't set that, that's what you're going to see right now.
Right. And then let me see. Let me get out of help desk. L. Now, from the other tenant. Plus, oh. Okay, she's got a faculty license.
Ah, see, you have to do the same thing.
Yep. No, because I've been doing this in 2 different tenants. So the tenant I'm in, yeah, I haven't been doing this in my main tenant. But what I want to do is put this as a student account. And then when you, the expected behavior here is that when you're a student account and you have your search configured for K-12, then what should happen in this scenario is that I can't access Copilot at all, even with those age restrictions configured. Now, because I just made this change, I don't know if this is going to work right away. Okay. So, but what we should see, actually, I don't even need to sign in this machine for this. I can just do this in a private browser.
It'll be, yeah, probably faster.
OPIL.
You're telling me you can't spell Copilot?
I can't type. All right. Let's see here.
Okay, but yeah, so pay attention to what this experience is going to look like, because what you just saw was like the Copilot consumer experience. And as he signs in here.
Yeah, see, this hasn't
Yeah,
this
that's
hasn't
not updated.
Yeah, but when it does update, well, actually, I'm not getting I'm not getting commercial data protection.
No.
Right. So I'm not getting CDP, because even though I do have the commercial data protection license assigned, but like if I were to sign in with my admin account, I will get the CDP experience. So let's do that.
But it's odd, unless we release those Copilot GPTs, I thought those were still consumer.
Yeah, copil.microsoft.com. Okay. So this gives me,
there you go,
that because this account has a faculty license associated with them. The other account has a student license. And so because the student license, they are a student and it's a K-12 tenant, the search experience basically is what's controlling their ability to get commercial data protection. So you might think, wait a minute, Microsoft, you guys are saying that those that are over 18 are able to get protected, but those that are under 18 are not able to get protected. That's been a common complaint that we're getting from a lot of folks, and we understand the complaint. And that's why later this year, all students will be, students will be covered, not all students will be covered with commercial data protection. Those that are over 13, I think is what we're saying right here.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to deal with, it's not so much a technical limitation. I mean, yes, there are technical implications, but a lot of this is following our responsible AI practices, right? And what does proper AI use look like for a minor? This is kind of new ground that everyone's kind of chartering. And so we're, we appreciate your patience as we navigate this, because it's obviously, we're trying to mind state and federal regulations, not just here in the US, but globally. And what does that look like, even from our best practices with AI and our responsibility to this. And so understand that there's a lot of legalities involved, blah, 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 blah. with this. It's not just a technical challenge here that we've been trying to solve, but more policy wise as well. So that is kind of why we're in that in between state.
Yeah. So now I gave that user that minor I denied. I guess that's going to take some time, I think, for that to.
Yeah, I think it takes.
Push through. I'll just reboot the machine. What other questions do we have in there? Because I know we kind of beat this one up.
So
fully confused everyone.
Yeah, and hopefully that answers your question. For Copilot is probably way more than you actually wanted to know, but there you go.
Yeah.
But Keith has a question about: are the policies for config refresh still in public preview, or are they in full production? Also, will there be any additions be made to config refresh?
I don't know if there's anything additional coming to config refresh.
Yeah.
Are
they still in public preview?
That I don't know. I think though, if you just, it should all be in settings catalog. At least it was. I know we took it out of settings catalog for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they're still there. Yeah, big refresh is there. So it's coming soon. DM client. Config refresh.
Insider preview.
Yeah, I think as long as you're above this build number, it should work. Are you not seeing it work? Or is not, have you tried? So I'm not looking at the chat.
It does appear to be working, but the verbiage of coming soon, it does, it can lead to some confusion.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're above this, I mean, you can run 21 H2 as well, but as long as you're above these versions or on the insider preview, then I have no expectation that it shouldn't work. We have had some policies in here before that have said like insider only. So I don't know if between this and insider only, if they're changing the verbiage from insider only to coming soon. But yeah, so that's what it is.
Jesse has a question on: do we know what the holdup is on platform SSO for Mac OS?
I think it's mostly just a fit and finish kind of thing.
It is.
Yeah, they're working through it. They're extremely close. I've talked to some folks on the Apple side that have been working with us on it, and they're pretty excited about it. I think all of us just can't wait for it to come out. But it's, we delayed it, I think till May, but again, this is all just going to come down to quality. And if it's, if there's still some issues with it, then they'll just kind of keep pushing it out. But they're definitely still working on it. They want to get it out as soon as they can.
Yeah, and I'll post a link in the chat. There's a LinkedIn group. If you're familiar with the Mac admins community for Microsoft, they recently migrated this group to LinkedIn, and so you can actually join this group and get some updates directly from those Apple PMs on the Microsoft side. But they had posted in there in early March an update that the product itself. They actually we did this internally at Microsoft. We kind of dog food it, where we test it before we release the product, and they found a number of issues that they needed to address before they make it broadly available to all, just in the spirit of creating the best product that we can. And so they were very transparent about that. That was the last major update that I've heard around it. So yeah, I think to Richard's point, it's purely just quality. and they want to make sure that we get it right. So I applaud the team for doing that, and we definitely appreciate your patience because we're excited about it as well. But take a look at that Mac Admins community if you haven't joined it yet. Be sure to do so. It's I've seen a number of customers, and maybe you all can speak to this, but just looking at migrating those Mac devices over to Intune based on the work that we've done inside of Intune. So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, so going back to this user, so we've got age group as minor, consent provided for the minor is denied. And so when you go into the VM now that it's been rebooted and we re-signed in, this is where we see that OneDrive isn't signed in. It was signed in prior to me rebooting. So this user, before we first signed in, now it's completely broken. So OneDrive isn't signed in, but it gets even worse.
Yeah.
So then you go into, well, surprisingly, Office is working here. This shouldn't work. This should actually completely be broken. In fact, even things like Company Portal, that breaks. Not Cortana. Cortana is already broken. It's been broken for quite some time. But here, you can't even sign into the company portal. This requires you to log in, and so like just everything like within the operating system or just any properties that you're starting to go to. I think this might be a cache credential. I think I might have to just like sign out and sign back in or something. All right. Yeah, so this is the stuff that you'll start to see. You'll see user is not allowed to access this application due to legal age group requirement of the application itself. And so this extends to any M365 based application as you try to sign into them. Even I think, actually, I don't know if Copilot, I think Copilot's on this too. No, Copilot, so we'll get to that. I can't get to the other stuff. But yeah, so setting those age group restrictions and denying rights will like fundamentally break Windows, or at least the Microsoft 365 apps that tie into your
the services.
Yeah, so comes the problem.
Which is really funny on like April Fool's Day if you want to pull a prank on your coworkers and be like, "Hey, you can't get into anything, right?"
Yeah, you denied.
There you go. You can deny them. But in general, you don't want to set that.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing that. All right.
Okay, so last question, probably maybe time for one more after this. Jonathan has a question. I'm still terrified about students keeping their device over the summer and Intune certificate expiring in July. Most students won't use their device at home. Any advice?
You know that. So I think I talked about this a while back. I think Jonathan, you were the one that probably mentioned this, and we had kind of a long discussion about this one. But the certificate issues, you know, doing this for the last 9 years now, I guess. We only had certificate issues one time over the summer, and that was really early on. And in fact, the issues that we had back then are what drove us to make it so that these issues don't happen again. And so certificate renewal in EDU environments actually happens around this time. Those certs should not be expiring in July. If the student's device has been active, you know, if they've been using it like now through May, even in March, like this is the time period where we do the renewal of those certs. And so I have yet to have anyone, you know, complain to me or our team about the new school year starting, and devices have been taken home with kids, and they're coming back, and their devices no longer are in a managed state because the certificate's been expired. That really hasn't been a problem in a very, very long time. So, not sure if there's any more I can say to that, but that's, you know, that's what.
All right, we'll go to Brent. Brent, do you want to come off mute?
Think my stuff up here. Hello. Yes, first time here actually. I should come in more often.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I've got a question, and I've been fighting with it for the last bit of the week. How does Intune activate Windows 10? Basically, my reading says that if we have an E3, E5 licenses for a person, we enroll a device, that should suffice for the Windows activation, but that doesn't seem to be the way. Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything.
Okay.
I do think we talked about this last week or the week before.
But I wasn't here last week. So
right. Yeah. No.
Sorry for rehashing stuff.
No. Yeah. I think so. Like Michael says is in the chat here. He's saying go watch last meeting's video. Because we spent quite a bit of time going into this one. Okay. But the short version of this is that in your licensing, you'll see a Windows 10/11 enterprise license that you can assign to a user.
Yeah.
And that license, which most people assume is what's doing the activation, actually doesn't activate anything. What it's really doing is it's stepping you up from whatever SKU you're coming from to either enterprise or education. So if you have a device that's running Windows Pro, then it's going to upgrade you to enterprise. If you have a device that has Windows Pro education, then it's going to upgrade you to education. But the Pro education devices are only those that are in K-12. If you are a part of what's called the Shape the Future program, through your vendor, you can buy devices that are in this program that are lower cost. And so most education customers actually don't have those devices. Some do, but not as many. So most of the devices that our EDU customers are purchasing are either home or pro. And then that license will upgrade you from pro to enterprise. It won't upgrade you from home to anything. Like if you're on home, you've got to do something else. But go back to the session from last week. Especially if you're doing like re-imaging. We explained in the re-imaging thing, like how re-imaging causes a problem with all of this. So yeah, I'd say go and look at the session from last week.
No problem. I'll go to that and check.
Yeah. And you posted the session from last week, right, Garrett?
I want to say yes, but I will double check. I may not have done it. So if not, I'll get it up on YouTube, Brent, and then I'll throw the link in the chat to the channel. And if it's not there, I'll get it posted here shortly, and you can definitely take a listen to it.
No problem. Thank you very much.
You bet. All right. With that, I'm going to call it and give everyone just another minute back. But thank you all for joining, as always. A few things we've got coming down the pike. We do have, I know we mentioned Security Copilot earlier. We do have a gentleman named Ravi coming at the end of May, I believe, Richard, to talk about Copilot for security, specifically with Intune, that Intune skill. He actually was previously on the education PM team, so some of you may actually know Ravi, and if so, we should give him a warm welcome back. But that'll be a really exciting session, and we've got some other exciting things planned for you all, and so I definitely appreciate it. The last call out is that I am going to be sending out a survey to you all about just the content that we are kind of surfacing for you all. If you're getting value out of this call, it helps, report up to our managers that this is a valuable call and we should continue doing it. So definitely leave us some feedback when I get that form created and sent out to you all. Hopefully, we want the good, the bad, and the ugly feedback, all of it, so we can make sure that we're bringing something that's valuable to you all. So just be on the lookout for that. I'll probably blast your inboxes and Teams messages, and so just a heads up there. And then we will see you all again on, let's see, May 7th?
Yeah.
May 7th.
Yep. All right, folks. Have a good one.
Thank you all. Great job, Richard. Thanks.
Thanks. You too, Garrett. Bye.
All right. Bye.